Thomas Harley continues to step up and proved he's worthy of top pairing minutes even when Miro returns. Can the Stars go 2 for 2 against the Wild tonight? And is Otter nearing a return? Let's discuss next on Locked On Stars.
Your Locked On Stars, your daily podcast on the Dallas Stars. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Howdy, Stars fans, and welcome back to another episode of Locked On Stars, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. It's a pleasure to be with you. I'm Joey Erickson, former producer of 105 Through the Fan and play-by-play voice of the Chippewa Steel. Be sure to subscribe. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. And as always, thank you so much for making us a part of your day and making us your first listen. Thomas Harley has been a saving grace to this defense core this season, and he's stepped up in the absence of Miro Heiskanen. I have to tell you how good he has been without Miro in the lineup, and they've certainly needed it. Can the Stars go 2 for 2 against the Wild this week? Very hard to do, especially after you shut out a team on their home ice. You get another crack at them tonight at the American Airlines Center, and is Otter nearing a return? Matt Murray was sent back down to the AHL. Does that mean Jake Oettinger is almost ready to go? We certainly hope so. But first, let me tell you about Thomas Harley and how fantastic he has been. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And of course, I will continue to sing the praises of Mr. Harley all season long. I'm a bit high on him, more than others I felt like coming in to the season. And he feels like one of the few on this D-core that's exceeded expectations, which is a good thing. Already 19 points on the season. I felt like he could have 50 points this year. He's about on track to come up short of that, but who knows, with Miro being out here for the foreseeable future, maybe Harley continues to rack up some points. But Dmitry Filipovich put this out on the Twitterverse, and I have to share this with you. Here's a few of the bullet points about Mr. Harley. And this is the 3 games, including when Miro went down against Colorado a few days ago. So Harley's been playing 24 minutes of ice time per game, which is first on the Stars. He also leads the team with 5-on-5 minutes at 58-48. So he's playing a bunch at even strength. And the Stars have a 75.3% expected goal share, and that is via natural stat tricks. So that's are some of the numbers that Mr. Filipovich put out about Harley. And this has been such a revelation for the Stars and his ability to step up, because especially with the game on Monday night against Minnesota, when the Stars were in penalty trouble, Esa Lindell and Jani Hakanpää almost exclusively take all the minutes on the PK. They have been really good down a man. That pairing's been great. Not so much 5-on-5. That allows Pete DeBoer to play Thomas Harley a ton when the Stars are at 5-on-5. Also because Harley is interchangeable. He can play with Hanley. He can play with Lundqvist. He can play with Suter. He can even break up the Lindell-Hakanpää pairing if he wants to. And that's what makes Harley so valuable. You can put him with anybody, and he's going to get the job done. And he's been so good this season. I feel like I tell it every podcast, but we have to acknowledge how great he's been in just his second first full season in the National Hockey League. Has 2 points since Miro went down, which is great. He's getting some power play time. Stars haven't had a ton of looks on the man advantage since Miro went down, but I've really liked his puck movement and his decision-making as a quarterback. I thought he would be really great on that second unit. I would still love to see him get more minutes, and he's going to do that with Miro out. But I found this with some more research that I really love. This is via moneypuck.com. He's second in the National Hockey League with a 5.6 goals above expected rating. That's second in the National Hockey League. And that is at all situations. 5-on-5, PK, of course, he has a shorthanded goal, and on the man advantage. But this is something that I really, really loved to compare from his 2021-22 season and now just his 2023 season, because he's played about the similar amount of games. In 2021, he played 34 games, and then he just played 6 in 2022, of course, at the end of the season, heading into the playoffs. So here's the 34 games that he's played in 2023, and just a few of the numbers to kind of match up against others from those previous 2 seasons. So expected goals in 2023, 3.4. In 2021, it was 2.1. But look at the stark difference in numbers like this. Goals above expected, as I just said, 5.6. He was negative in 2021 and 22. And this is just regular season. In the playoffs, I bet Harley was a bit up because he was playing some fantastic minutes. But I really love seeing the stark difference in that to show the development that Harley has had after coming back from the AHL and then a full offseason preparing for his first full year in the National Hockey League. That's almost a difference of +6 in the goals above expected. Points per 60 minutes, 1.65 this season. It was 0.52 in 2021, 1.19 in 2022. So he steadily increased there. His shooting percentage is way up. Of course, when you have 9 goals, that's certainly going to help. But those are some stark differences in numbers from when he first got called up in 2021 to now. And I think that just shows you the development that he's had in the AHL and why I really thought it would be important for Nils Lundkvist to go down there and get some playing time and develop a bit more. Unfortunately, they're not able to do that. I've said that multiple times with his contract, even though Nils played a really, really phenomenal complete game on Monday night. Hopefully we see a bit more consistent effort of that, and then the Stars can really get rocking and rolling. But Thomas Harley, in the absence of Miro Heiskanen, continues to prove he's worthy of top pairing minutes. I've said it all year. He needs to be playing the second most, even when Miro's in the game. He needs to be up there at 22 minutes, 23 a game. So there's no reason Suter, who's approaching 40 years old, should be playing more minutes than Thomas Harley, especially with the impact Harley is having. And Harley increasingly is getting more ice time, so they're deploying him that way. I think they're realizing that, yeah, we need 4 and 55 out there a ton because they're one of the best as a pairing in terms of expected goals percentage. They're actually the best in the National Hockey League when Miro and Harley are together. But I love Miro being out for this reason because it allows guys like Harley to step up and establish themselves as top-level defensemen on their squad. And he's worthy of top pairing minutes. Abso-freaking-lutely. It also allows Nils Lundkvist to get into the lineup because Pete DeBoer doesn't have a choice now. You got to play him. You got to play him. You can't have him sit up in the rafters, and I think this is a good thing for him. He can continue to play. Maybe it lit a fire up under his rear, and Lundkvist can continue to get better, but Harley is getting better. And he's been really good this season, which I think is an even bigger note on this whole thing. Yeah, I can throw all these numbers at you. Yes, he's been great in terms of his goals above expected. He's got all these assists. He's been doing so well on the PK, even in that job, making himself a more well-rounded defenseman. He's got some power play time. But the biggest thing is he's become a shutdown defenseman in all aspects of the game. Off the rush, his ability to close gaps and puck jack people is amazing and force teams into playing dump and change or dump and chase when they really don't want to do that. I mean, the amount of times he just shuts down odd man rushes or 3-on-2s coming the other way because of his long reach, his ability to close gaps and force an opponent into a terrible play is amazing. I can't sing his praises enough when you watch it on a nightly basis. His ability to get his sticks in lanes, break up passes, and his takeaway numbers are way up this season as well. His giveaways are, but that's because he's playing more. And you're bound to give the puck away more, especially when you have the puck a bit more, and he's playing a ton. So I had to share some of those numbers and how great he's been. A 53% Corsi for percentage, which ranks pretty high in terms of Dallas Stars defensemen at second behind Miro, of course. So he continues to just be a saving grace for this defense squad. And I love it that Miro's out to some degree. And I hate saying that. You all know how much I freaking love number 4. And I hate to see him not playing because the Stars desperately need him either way. Even if they're going to win hockey games without him, the Stars are certainly not as good without Miro Heiskanen. But it allows some of these young guys to play and prove that they're everyday defensemen. And Harley's already proven that. I mean, he's overwhelmingly deserved this amount of ice time. And I think this is great for him. And we got a good one on our hands. And hopefully he's going to be here for a long, long time. Him and Miro are going to be a pairing that I dream about every time my head hits the pillow each night. And that gives me a lot of hope moving forward for this Stars decor. Jim Neal hit it, man. He hit it right on the money with this guy in the first round. How about that? He's got some good pedigree. He's got some credibility in the draft. The rest of the defense, maybe not so much in the way they've constructed it. But hey, salary cap is a thing. It is really hard to get great players, especially for cheap. And lockdown defensemen, because those are just not available. Teams will not let him up. Look at Esa Lindell. He's a shutdown defender. Stars would never let him go. And good thing they haven't, because the PK needs a lot of work, especially against this Minnesota team, which every time these two come together, they play special teams galore. It's a spectacular for power plays and penalty kills. Speaking of that, can the Stars go 2 for 2 this week against the Minnesota Wild? May we see 2 AHL goalies face off? Maybe. Let's talk about it next in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL regular season has wrapped up, and there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 money line bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. Go ahead, get the FanDuel app. It is so easy to use. They have live game, same parlays. They have bets in the new Explore tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, and the playoffs are here. You have some great matchups this weekend. The Dallas Cowboys taking on the Green Bay Packers. Detroit and Tampa is a very interesting game. You have Philadelphia taking on, who are they taking on? I can't remember, because I don't really care who they take on. Hopefully they lose. I'll be completely honest. I have no idea who their opponent is, because they completely collapsed and allowed the Dallas Cowboys to win the NFC East, baby. So that's all I have to say on that. But go ahead, make some money this weekend with FanDuel while taking in the NFL playoffs. Such a great time of year. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. So the Stars trying to go 2 for 2 tonight at the American Airlines Center against the Minnesota Wild. Be sure to check out on YouTube right now. Go over there to subscribe. Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. 24/7, as I said, covering the top sports stories along with the local experts of Locked On. Great stuff over there. Great stuff on here, at least I think. So go ahead and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Locked On Stars. Please be sure to become an everydayer. Listen every single day. We have great stuff coming out. On Monday, did a crossover episode with Locked On Wild. Hopefully, I'll do a few more of those with other teams as the year goes on, and we can have some fun discussing the NHL. Okay, so I'm thinking we may get a backup versus backup goaltending matchup here tonight. Of course, Marc-Andre Fleury has not been good against the Stars in his last 3 starts, dating back to the spring game when the Stars put up, I believe, 7 on him. I'm wondering if the Minnesota Wild go with their AHL goaltender who was called up this week, and Jesper Wallstedt. He has been on a lot of Minnesota Wild fans' minds since they drafted him back in 2021. He was in the first round at 20th overall, and they've been pretty much waiting for him to kind of take the reins. He's played in a lot of preseason games against the Stars. He actually mentioned this week that he's played really well against the Stars, and that's when Dallas was kind of trotting out their real lineup, so to speak, in the preseason, when sometimes you kind of get your depth guys, and sometimes you get at least 85% of the real roster. And Wallstedt mentioned he's played pretty good. He's 11-9-2 this season in the AHL, has a 2.54 goals against average and a 0.917 save percentage in 20 games played. Fleury has now started in 5 straight. Maybe they go with Jesper Wallstedt tonight in Dallas and try to recreate some of that magic that Matt Murray had on Monday. Do the Stars go with Matt Murray once again? They did recall him or loan him back to the AHL, excuse me. We'll probably find out more about Otter here as you're watching this or consuming this, since this will be out in the morning. But he was reloaned to the AHL. If he is back, do the Stars want to go with him again? But they did give Wedgwood a rest. Maybe they want to put Scotty back in there. I think this is a real interesting matchup. It's really hard to beat a team in back-to-back nights within like 3 days, especially after you went into their building and shut them out 4-0. The Wild are dealing with a lot of injuries. Kaprizov's still going to be out. Jared Spurgeon, Jonas Brodin. So they don't have the roster or the firepower that they would like. And well, for the Stars' sake, you got to find a way to win these games. This is a team you should be able to handle. And I find it really interesting, kind of the chess match between these two teams on most nights when they get together. Pete DeBoer against Minnesota just seems to put on a coaching masterpiece every time he faces Minnesota. He just always seems to push all the right buttons, and Dallas comes out on top, whether it's special teams, whether it's just the chess match between coaches. It's not as fiery when Dean Evanson was behind the bench now with John Hines, of course. But this is shaping up to be a really good matchup, especially if you get Jesper Wallstedt. Stars have seen him a bit in preseason, but look, he's kind of new, and you got to figure out how to beat him. But the Stars haven't had any trouble with their offense this season. Of course, 3.59 goals per game. That is top 5 in the NHL. Tyler Seguin has been phenomenal. I touched on it yesterday. Be sure to check out yesterday's episode as well. It's reveling in the fact that the Stars beat the Wild again with 2 shorthanded goals and a power play goal for good measure too. Seguin now has 4 goals in his last 3 games, 10 points in his last 5. He has just been so deadly. 15 goals on the season, just one behind the team lead, which is held by Rope Hintz with 16. Look, Jason Robertson, when he takes on the Minnesota Wild, just has a coming out party, it seems like, every time. When the Stars are struggling or anybody's struggling, they need to play the Wild. If we can get that schedule figured out, NHL, please do. He's scored in back-to-back games now. He's up to 40 points on the season. He's crept up. He's over a point per game now. So I said around Christmas break that it just feels like Robertson's on a verge of really starting to go on just a stretch where he's as productive as he's ever been this season, in a down year in goal scoring for Robertson. But 40 points in 39 games. Stars are just getting balance from everywhere. And I'm really excited to watch this matchup. Wild are going to be hungry, I feel like, to be really physical against the Stars. Can they weather that like they did in Minnesota in that first 10 minutes of the hockey game? Maybe this time the power plays get shifted over to yourself, because if the Stars get 6 power plays, night, Minnesota, they better be disciplined, because if the Stripes saw the game on Monday night, maybe that evens things up and the Stars get a lot of power plays, they could put a real hurting on the Wild. So you got to be able to beat another team in back-to-back days. I think this is a great little kind of mini playoff series, so to speak, too, when you're taking on a team multiple times. The intensity, the hatred seems to amp up a bit. It wasn't a very overly emotional game on Monday. I bet that really ramps up in Dallas tonight. Minnesota's not going to be happy. They're down a few men. They're going to try to really, really implode their physical presence on the Stars. They got to weather that, and hopefully they get a lead and they hold on to it and they pick up another one. Much needed points here in this stretch. And then you close out with Chicago in Nashville on the weekend. So as I mentioned, Jake Oettinger may be nearing a return. What does it mean when Matt Murray was sent back to the AHL yesterday? I'll tell you a bit more in just a moment. Today's episode of Locked On Stars is brought to you by Jase Medical. I know we've come to sports to escape sometimes from the crazy realities of life, but can we talk for just a minute about preparing for real life? According to the FDA, pharmacies are running out of antibiotics like amoxicillin right in the middle of the worst flu season in over a decade. That can be scary, and you don't want to imagine the helpless feeling of a loved one that has a sickness, and the supply chain issue will not allow you to get them life-saving medication that they need. Thankfully, with Jase Medical, you'll be okay. The Jase case is a pack of 5 different antibiotics to treat a long list of bacterial illnesses, including UTIs, respiratory infections, you have skin infections, among others. That stuff could happen to anybody at any time. Visit FanDuel.com and complete your physician encounter. It will be reviewed by a board-certified physician, and your medications will be dispensed by a licensed pharmacy at a fraction of the regular cost. The Jase case, 5 different antibiotics that treat a long list of bacterial illnesses. It's never been more important to be prepared than today. Go to jasemedical.com and use the offer code LOCKEDON to get $20 off your order. So Matt Murray was loaned back to the AHL yesterday, and that could mean one or two things. Either they're trying to save a bit of cap space for another day, which they had done about a week ago. I believe it was right before New Year's. They loaned him back to the AHL. We obviously knew he was coming back because at that time, Otter was a bit farther than closer than returning at the time. But it also means now with Otter nearing a return, Pete DeBoer mentioned last week, he's getting closer, he's progressing, he's taking shots in practice, and pretty much doing all the normal things that Otter is doing when he's manning the pipes almost every night. He could be returning tonight, maybe in a backup role to Scott Wedgwood, or does Matt Murray get called up? But I think this is really, really good news that Jake Oettinger is nearing a return. I mentioned a few weeks ago, I thought the most likely date for him to be back, or the closest, would be next week against Los Angeles, not Las Vegas, Los Angeles against the Kings. But I think he's going to be good to go. If I'm speculating correctly, and I'm giving myself an educated guess, I think he'll be ready for the back-to-back this weekend against Chicago and Nashville. That would be a nice introduction back, maybe against the Blackhawks, maybe against the Predators, where he's had a lot of success against Nashville in his career. So all good news either way. Jake Oettinger is almost returning. They would certainly like to have him back. He's also the all-star representative for the Dallas Stars this season. Be sure to vote for Miro, Rope, Duchesne, Robertson as well. Make sure every day you go to vote for those guys. See if you can give Otter a teammate to go along with him to Toronto in the 2024 All-Star Game. So we'll see how that all shapes out. For anybody watching on YouTube at this time, I've been posting it a bit later just because more people seem to be on YouTube, by the way. If you have any thoughts on that, if you like it when I post it a little bit later in the day, I feel like the majority of you can get to it than when I've been previously posting it really, really early. I would love some feedback on that. If you like it to be a little bit later in the afternoon, I just feel like more people are on YouTube at that time than like 8 o'clock in the morning. If you want to get your fix early though, I always post it at about 8 o'clock in the morning, the audio version. So yeah, just some clean house there. Would love some feedback on that, but I've been posting a bit later. The reason I was getting into that is because we'll probably know by tomorrow morning around noon whether Matt Murray was loaned because Otter's returning or not. So we'll see what the goaltending situation is like tonight against the Minnesota Wild. National broadcast tonight. No Bally Sports. It is on TNT. 6:30 start as well at home, which I believe is the first one of the season. I think TNT is doing a doubleheader. That would be my only reason for why it's a 6:30 start. They probably got a late night game on the West Coast. So national broadcast, the old TNT crew is on the job for the Dallas Stars versus Minnesota Wild. Stars trying to go 2 for 2 against the Wild, pick up a crucial 2 points in the Central Division, trying to keep up with Colorado and Winnipeg. Should be a fun one tonight. Appreciate all you everydayers out there taking in every episode and hanging with me on this roller coaster of emotions of a season, especially the last few weeks with Otter going down and Miro. There is a ton to discuss, and I would say I'm happy about it. At the same time, maybe not so happy, because when the Stars are going through some injuries, there's almost more things for me to talk about. For a while there, we were just kind of cruising along, winning games. Nothing too drastic was happening. So hopefully the Stars will be back to full strength here in just a few weeks. It feels like they are, with Miro not going on the LTIR. Always great news. Of course, didn't have to have surgery. Best case scenario moving forward. Alrighty, be sure to follow me on the Twitter thing at JoeyTheJet19. Locked on Stars, free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube. Put that notification bell on. Never miss an episode. Always appreciate you Stars fans and Locked on Stars fans as well. Thank you so much. Enjoy your Wednesday and enjoy Wild versus Stars tonight on TNT. We'll see you tomorrow. So long, Stars fans.